Imagine a village, alive and breathing one moment, and completely silent the next. This isn't a scene from a movie. It's the true, unsettling story of Ankerlia, Norway. In November 1963, this remote village of 67 souls vanished without a trace, leaving behind a ghost town frozen in time. What happened to them? The mystery remained unsolved for over 6 decades, until a shocking discovery in 2026 turned everything we thought we knew on its head. Today, we're delving deep into one of Scandinavia's most baffling mass disappearances. Ankerlia was a small, quiet farming community nestled about 90 kilometers north of Trondheim. Life there was simple, predictable. The village consisted of 23 families, 67 people in total, living in modest homes scattered across the stark but beautiful landscape. On the evening of November 8, 1963, everything was normal. The local pastor noted that 34 villagers attended the routine church service, just as they did every week. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But the next morning, November 9th, the illusion of normalcy shattered. When the postal worker arrived for his weekly delivery, he was greeted not by the usual friendly faces, but by an eerie, profound silence. He walked from house to house, calling out, but no one answered. Puzzled and a little concerned, he started looking inside. What he found was the stuff of nightmares. In every home, the scene was the same. A snapshot of life abruptly paused. Coffee was still warm in cups on kitchen tables. Radios were left playing softly, their voices filling the empty rooms. Children's toys were scattered on floors, as if abandoned mid-play. In one house, a dinner table was fully set, food waiting to be served, but the meal was untouched. The most chilling detail? Despite the frigid minus 12 degrees Celsius temperature outside, all the winter coats were still hanging on their hooks by the doors. The cars sat in the driveways, some with the keys still in the ignition. It was as if every single resident had simply stepped out for a moment, intending to be right back. There were absolutely no signs of a struggle, no forced entry, no chaos. It was a clean, silent evacuation. The Norwegian police were called in and launched a massive investigation. They searched the surrounding forests, the fjords, every nook and cranny of the rugged terrain. But they found nothing. No footprints in the thin layer of snow, no bodies, not a single clue to where 67 people could have gone. Investigators checked bank accounts, all remained untouched. They contacted neighboring villages and cities, but no one had seen or heard from anyone from Ankerlia. No missing persons reports were ever filed by friends or distant relatives, because an entire community had vanished together. It was as if they had been erased from existence. The last confirmed activity was that church service on the evening of November 8th. After that, the timeline goes cold. The official investigation concluded in 1964 with a verdict that baffled everyone: mass emigration. But how could 67 people, from infants to the elderly, emigrate without taking their money, their clothes, their cars, or even telling a single soul? It was a conclusion that explained nothing and satisfied no one. For over 60 years, Ankerlia became a legend, a ghost story whispered in the Nordic twilight. The village was left to the elements, its empty homes a silent testament to the mystery. Tourists and paranormal investigators would occasionally visit, drawn by the haunting tale, but the village kept its secrets locked away. Then, in December 2025, everything changed. A team of archaeologists from the University of Oslo was conducting a routine survey of the abandoned site. They weren't looking for the villagers. They were studying the historical settlement patterns of the region. They brought with them ground-penetrating radar, a standard tool for modern archaeology. As they scanned an area about 400 meters from the village center, their equipment registered a massive anomaly. Something was down there, buried deep beneath the frozen earth. Excited, the team began to dig. What they uncovered was a man-made underground chamber located 8 meters below the surface. Carbon dating revealed the chamber was ancient, predating the village of Ankerlia itself by at least 200 years. The entrance, however, showed clear signs of recent disturbance. Tool marks consistent with those from the post-1950s era. Someone had opened it, and not too long ago. With their hearts pounding, the archaeologists descended into the darkness. The air was stale, ancient. And what they found inside sent a shockwave through the global community. The chamber was stark and bare, except for one central feature: a large, flat stone altar covered in Runic inscriptions. And arranged in a perfect circle around this altar were 67 neatly folded sets of clothing. One set of clothes for every man, woman, and child who had disappeared from Ankerlia in 1963. The team meticulously catalogued the findings. The clothing was perfectly preserved, from small children's jumpers to adult work trousers. But there were no personal effects, no jewelry, no wallets. And most importantly, there were no human remains. No bones, no hair, not a single trace of DNA evidence to suggest the villagers had ever been physically in that chamber after their disappearance. Just their empty clothes, waiting in the dark. The runic inscriptions on the altar were translated. They were written in an old dialect, and the message was cryptic and terrifying. They answered the call beneath. In January 2026, the Norwegian government sealed the entire site, declaring it an active and sensitive archaeological excavation. The discovery of the chamber didn't solve the mystery of Ankerlia, it made it infinitely deeper and more disturbing. What does it all mean? The theories are now running wild. Was it a case of mass hysteria? A collective delusion that led 67 people to strip off their clothes and walk into the freezing wilderness to their doom? Perhaps, but where are the bodies? Could it have been an undiscovered underground gas vent, releasing hallucinogenic fumes that caused a shared fatal vision? It's a scientific possibility, but it doesn't explain the neatly folded clothes or the ancient chamber. Some point to the Cold War, which was at its peak in 1963. Was Ankerlia the site of a secret military experiment gone horribly wrong? A psychological operation that spiraled out of control? This would explain government secrecy, but not the ancient ritualistic elements. And then there's the most unsettling theory of all. That the villagers were part of a secret long-standing tradition, a pact tied to the ancient chamber that lay beneath their feet. That the disappearance wasn't a tragedy, but a ritual. That when the time came, they simply answered the call beneath, willingly leaving our world for another. The disappearance of the 67 residents of Ankerlia remains one of Scandinavia's most haunting unsolved mysteries. A village that went to sleep one night and never woke up. A community that left behind everything but their clothes, folded neatly in a circle, waiting for a discovery that would only bring more questions. Thank you for joining us on Veiled Chronicles. The story of Ankerlia is far from over, and we'll be following the official investigation closely. If you want to stay updated on this and other baffling vanishings from history, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Until next time, keep questioning.